Welcome to the Golden Feather. Grab a pint, a plate, and pick your seats. Your host, Vertec and Chibi are back from their latest adventure.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Golden Feather. Today is the 20th of January, 2023. We are on episode 152, Turbo Snorse. And you will find out the reasoning for that name in a few minutes. But with us, we have a good friend of ours from a couple years ago, Turbo Live. How are you today?
I'm doing really good. You know, just part of all the bloopers. No. Just doing good. I'm going to go to Top Golf right after this. So
nice.
whack some balls and it's going to be fun.
Awesome.
Ooh-ha. Fantastic. It's been a while since I've gone to any kind of Top Golf type thing. And,
I've never gone, actually.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't join us live, you'll have no idea what Turbo's talking about with the bloopers. You're going to have no idea. It's going to be gone.
It's going to be gone.
But, so the lovely and talented elf next to me with the branchlers so lovely is Chibi. How are you today,
Hello.
Chibi?
I'm doing well. We'll probably be doing much better now.
Yeah,
that we're off of
the
work.
world may know. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, best time of the week.
Yes, Friday afternoons, favorite time, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Means I don't have to work for a couple of days.
There's a part. There it is. There it was. Yeah. It's got legs.
Got legs.
It's got legs.
I like how that's what they clipped of it. That's what they clipped of it. I thought that was great. Like, oh.
Well,
actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll do this real quick. You know what? I'll see if I can clip that sound in here. Let me get this Chrome turned actually on. Get some noise coming out of it here.
While he does that, a little bit of background. Tergo and I and Vertec, we all met playing Overwatch a few years back. By a few, I mean like 5 or so years back when Overwatch first kind of came out. And we played Overwatch for a bit together. And then life got busy. We kind of just drifted apart. And the most recent live stream, I was like, wait a minute, I know that person.
Right, I know that person. There it is.
I was like, wow, I didn't know he was into MMOs because like we didn't meet over an MMO. We met over like a battleground PvP kind of game, which kind of makes sense because Ashes is a PvP centric game. But still, I just thought it was really cool, and we ended up being able to reconnect. And now you're out on our podcast, so this is really awesome.
Yep.
We were just talking about shorts before we went live and how you're planning on making more shorts. What kind of content do you plan to make for Ashes?
For Ashes, so I do plan on doing long form content for sure. Probably really just in-depth guides. That's the stuff that my meat and potatoes that I like to make, or upcoming news for it. But for shorts, kind of like a quick tip, like, did you know in blah, 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 there's this, and if you do this, and then boom, because shorts, it's like TikTok, short attention span people. They just want information and then they go to the next one, Right. That's kind of how I plan on doing for Ashes shorts, but I do plan on doing long form content, in-depth, maybe classes, environment, even professions. I don't even do professions now for WoW. Like that's what I've made content for. I did their dragon glyphs, but really it just as much as I can, because especially if I get into the Alpha 2, it's just about timing. YouTube, it's always like, gotta be the first there a lot of times because there's so much competition. So
right.
It's not really too much competition. 15 people around the whole world, not much, but it's still a lot in the terms of YouTube in one game, but
right.
So yeah, that's kind of the different content.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And reactions,
yeah. I want the cinematic trailer, so I definitely want to react to their cinematic trailer because I'm ready to see a cinematic trailer for this. So it's gonna be a good game. And then seeing, just because when I did make my 5 things like that they did an update for, or 5 biggest updates in 2022, the video that you're playing right here, just like when they mentioned that there's 64 different archetypes, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That is, it's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see how all that, and then just their animations, they're doing everything. And you guys have known, Steven and Margaret for so long, like the team freaking cares about their MMO. And that's huge because, I recently was just talking to people about like, with Tower of Fantasy and other MMOs that don't last a year or two, if that, they, these big corporations make their money and then they leave and then just go up and start up another one, do it again. And not like, hey, we're in this for the long run. And you could just tell that every single person cares about it, Steven especially. So he's a good creative director.
Yeah, definitely.
True story.
I think that. Go ahead. Yeah,
thank you,
go for it.
DM Lorid, for the subscription. Much appreciated. Welcome in.
Thank you. Sorry.
All good. We drink Monsters over here, so the clicking noises are normal. You're in a tavern. There's drinks. You're good.
That's true. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Everybody. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
You guys have a cheers emote? That's so cool. Okay. What? Okay.
So Lexia, welcome in. Yeah. By the way, I pushed out a ping just in case Twitch didn't do it. So.
Yeah, Twitch didn't notify out. It happens.
Alrighty. Yeah, it happens.
So just letting you know. Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to say, given that we met you through Overwatch, how did you find out about Ashes?
MMO Byte, actually.
MMO Byte, okay.
Yep, that's how. Because I was subbed to him for other games. Well, I just found him through YouTube recommendation. Did its job, and I subbed to him because he breaks down the games, and then I saw MMO Byte, and then I went to go and watch. I watched Asmon's 2.5-hour gameplay. Oof. And I'm like, bro, I watched it. Well, I mean, like you could watch it like in tidbits, and I watched 30 minutes here.
That's fair.
And so I'm like, oh man, this I knew was going to be pivotal. And then them doing a monthly update. It took me a while to actually get to their Twitch and see their monthly updates. And I'm like, why have I missed all of this? And then and then I just started getting, and then I already applied for the content creator program.
Like, nice. That was going to be the next question I had for you.
Perfect. I can see into the future. No, but no, I applied like almost a year ago, and I was like, I gotta get in. I'm ready for this. It's gonna be a big world. I mean, 1,200 kilometers. We were talking about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think you and Vertec were talking in chat about the size of Ashes versus World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be massive. But, I mean, most of it's ocean, and so the ocean boss, that's gonna be crazy. Yeah, thank you for the shout out. Thank you. Yeah.
No, of course. And Turgo is really cool. If you haven't stopped by one of his lives, do it. He also plays World of Warcraft. He actually has blue hair because of Dragonflight. And we're playing Classic though, so I just got to 80 recently. But I miss the old game. I don't really like, in my opinion, the way that the new game went.
Dragon writing so good.
It looks pretty. It looks gorgeous, but it doesn't align with what I want out of the game. But it's pretty.
Yeah, like two expansions ago-ish. Legion was the last one we played, and that was the last one where we were like, we've been wronged by so many things. Yeah.
Legion was?
Yeah.
Wow, was Legion already 5 years ago? God.
Well, what it was is in I think it was May of the year that BFA came out. We bought BFA, and by August or September, we were like, nope.
No.
But
I know they did a lot of changes.
I got the collector's edition.
Oh, that's pretty though.
Yeah, and then it comes like with a if I could get it open, comes like with an art book and such.
Oh, nice.
And so and it came with the deluxe, and I gave out the digital copy. But I love their collector's editions so much. If Ashes does the collector's, I'm definitely buying it.
Oh yeah, no. I know that there's going to be no box cost, but we are definitely waiting for Ashes things to come out again, because back when we first backed it on Kickstarter, we got like hoodies, and I think a Ashes mouse pad somewhere and a poster of the cleric, all those things. Yes,
Yeah, I feel-
merch.
Yes,
Give us the
merch.
I
Merch.
feel
How's it
very,
going?
very confident they're going to put out some kind of physical collector's edition type, like launch type pack of merch.
Oh, also
Yes.
for
But,
creators, if we get
yeah.
it into the creators program, I saw all this stuff that we can get. I mean, it's depending on your influence, but it's just
Right.
like, I was like, I'll wear a hoodie every single day on stream if I'm able to get one. you know?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, we lucked out. We got some of the old hoodies, and I still wear mine at least weekly at minimum.
Yeah.
Like out and about everywhere.
Honestly, it would be kind of cute to get like a little Ashes outfit that was like obviously Ashes of Creation related to put on the
Oh, dude.
VTubers.
We should cosplay. We got to cosplay in Ashes.
Yes. Yes.
All
Love
about
It'd be cool if they just send as a costume and we cosplay.
Yes. A collector's edition or simple merch would be a great alternative for cosmetics for a while. Oh yeah, absolutely, Ravon. I agree. And like there's a lot of people that stop buying cosmetics and I understand why. And I mean it's also
Can you imagine? Oh, go ahead.
He's like, he's
I was gonna
imagining.
say, can you imagine if there was gonna be like limited edition physical merch for a while instead of like the cosmetics?
They should do like what Lost Ark did. They had the founders stuff, but that would be dope if it was like founders physical, and that a lot of that money actually goes to just support the team to make it even better.
yeah.
We're part
Yeah.
of their marketing team. Done. That'd be
Right.
dope. I would buy a limited edition founder. It says like Ashes of Creation founder on the hoodie.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Sorry. Go
Makes
ahead.
sense why people would stop buying cosmetics for a while since there's no answer. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think because I've always been positive towards cosmetics because of knowing that money ultimately goes towards Ashes being able to continue with development and stuff in the long term. But again, I'd be just as happy having like physical merch as on like virtual merch, because then at least like I'm getting a direct something out of it. With like, I know what I'm using this for, which is a lot of people's issue with the cosmetic. My cosplay is wearing my tattoos only. Oh no.
Yeah, and I
that'd be
mean,
neat.
also, they can also pull what Fortnite did and make it where, some of the creators, they can do do the creator in the game, but then make him look like, from that era. And then you just, like your avatars, they can put those in game and then people can buy them and then it supports I don't know. There's a lot that they could do, but
Yeah.
it remains to be seen.
Yeah. I got the impression all of the cosmetics are for world building and NPCs. So like if you wanted to look like so-and-so NPC, now's the only time to get X cosmetic. Yeah, it's one of those things where like whatever cosmetic is out there, there'll be a version of it, but currently whatever you're buying is only available now. But you might be able to obtain something similar in game that's a very different color or whatever. So like the Firefox mount perhaps could be a different skin and stuff like that. Similar
Blue
though.
version, like a blue version.
Yeah, or
blue,
like a
blue and
purple.
white. Oh, purple. Oh, I would buy it instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Oh.
I think if and when we finally see a system that isn't a little combat or a little artisanship, then players will have renewed faith, such as Node, Freehold, Siege, Caravan, etc. Yeah, Overthrow, I could definitely get that.
Or for that matter, if there's a system where they're showing off a lot of the artisanship, people have a big renewal of faith too.
Solver. On
Hear me
that
out.
note.
Sylvern is like, hear me out. I just want a skull and loincloth. Oh, remember when they were doing, instead of it being a Tolnar, it was a Tonar? There was
Yeah.
like a joke.
The toner, yeah.
Whenever
yeah.
I see Tolnar, I'm like, Tonar.
Somebody's gonna name their character that. That's gonna be, I
wanted to-
guarantee you, like a registered name.
DJ Tonar.
Oh gosh. I could just imagine a little like Tolnar avatar playing DJ music.
Ooh, we could do a tavern and I could play some EDM there.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah.
the first topic I kind of wanted to get into, which is kind of funny because we're a little bit getting into it now. Still positioning for the Snorse to actually be called a Snorse, yeah. I wanted to kind of get into some general gameplay things. The first one being kind of on this conversation of like why we play certain games, how we got into certain games, right? And so the first thing that I wanted to chat about is like this post by Senboy on the forums saying, when did you stop playing games for fun? When you reach a certain age, you stop living in the moment and start focusing on winning more than fun. The concept of losing was not ever in your mind when playing. Your mentality shifts. I have a hard time to give an exact date or game, but I think it was around Legend of Zelda to the NES. I think I was 9. I know this looks sad, but I still enjoy games. It's not black and white. And I think that definitely plays into like the hardcore versus casual, right? So we have our casual players that love playing, but they're just enjoying, they're just having their fun time. And then you have the harder core people that are like, let's get server first, let's get the best gear, let's min-max, things like that. So, with MMOs, you often see this clash between the hardcore and the casuals, where like people are filthy casuals, or like, you know, hey, why don't you have this, like, yeah, right? Why don't you have like this gear score? And they're like, dude, I'm just enjoying the game, you know? And so like, I guess what I wanted to bring up is, what is your play style? What are your goals when it comes to games? And do you do it mainly for fun, or do you try to achieve something out of it?
Well, that was just a general. Were you asking me, or general?
When I ask these questions, it's both for you and Vertec, and then it's also generalized so that chat can respond, and then we can pull from chat.
Got you.
Yeah.
So I feel it's very hard for me, especially because I feel like every MMO has something to offer. Mainly, though, I love story. So whenever there's a new story arc, I go back to that MMO, I play through it, and then I go back over to the other MMO I'm playing. Now, there's a certain MMO, WoW, I've been playing, that's my first MMO. And I gotta say, I try to do the hardcore and the softcore, I guess, of like doing the world stuff, just have fun, be in the world. Yeah. But it's like, when you only have so much time in the day, you kind of try to do the hardcore stuff on one game, because WoW raiding can be hard for the general mass, you know, because it was just so night and day when I was with my guild. Like I was able to get through all bosses, one shot, nothing. We were able to go about our day. Like it was nothing. Right. But the week before, we couldn't even, like I was doing a pug, couldn't even get past the second boss. I was just like, you know, so you have to like, if you want to do certain content in the game, either you wait years until it's not relevant anymore, and you can just kind of go in there for fun and see what's there, and you outweigh it pretty well. But I would say, you know, when it depends on the person, if you like Ashes, it's going to be so big, there's enough there for you to go hardcore. It's hard to, and this has also come down to WoW and how they've had a hard time juggling that. They've had a hard time juggling, should we prioritize the people that can only play like a couple hours a day, or should we prioritize these world first people? Right. That can be very hard to do, because that's why LFR is such a thing still, because, you know, people that work are able to do it and see the world. But personally, there's probably like a select games I gotta go a little bit more hardcore, min-max, just because I need to get through the content. Others, not so much. You know, I'll get to it when I get to it. That's my perspective. I
like that. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Protect.
Yeah. The first, let me just make a comment here on Silverin's comment there. I could see a Turgo definitely getting in on this, and if there's any intrepid people listening, I implore you to make some Y, some M, some C, and some A emotes in game, so we can sit in game and do the YMCA.
Oh my god,
dude, that'd be so dope.
Standing on top, I'm just saying, standing on top of the bank, right at the front edge, just doing the YMCA. Or better yet, we were just talking about like actually spinning music and like DJing at the tavern, right? There you go. Yeah. Play the YMCA and just get people up on the top dancing.
You know Moonguard, right? The RP server and WoW. I went in there, stood there, and advertised that I was DJing. I was standing there in my character and he was all just like dancing like this, and I was just DJing, like, come over to my Twitch, let's have a party. There was like 150 people in there. It's
Nice.
no joke, but yeah, well, you could do that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. It's fantastic. But yeah, more on the topic though. I tend to I guess start at the intention of the post that you were referencing there. I kind of see what they're saying with when did you stop playing games. I'm assuming the more proper statement is probably purely for fun.
Right.
When it was just playing it purely for fun, not trying to win. But I never played, that I can recall, a game purely for fun, except for things like the party games and whatnot. But even still, some of those are there's a thing to win. But
Okay.
so the games to me have always had to have a core of it's got to be fun in order for me to play it. But once I am playing it, I'm playing to win. I'm playing to reach the end. I'm playing to thank you for the cheer there, Turgo.
Of course. Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
But yeah, I never really stopped playing for fun, but I also never really quote unquote started playing to win. I always played because the game was fun, but while I'm playing a game and having fun with it, I'm playing to win. As soon as I stop having fun, whether I win or lose, I don't care that much. I try to win, but if I stop having fun, that's when I stop playing.
Right. That makes sense.
Well,
My
so
answer.
sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to tag onto that because the person mentioned in the post, The Legend of Zelda. You play to beat the game. You know, that's a little bit different. If you're talking about a single RPG or an MMO or Apex or Mario Party or Mario Kart, I think it's like you got to figure out which genre you're doing here. Because Apex, you're playing to win. Like when I'm in there, I'm playing to win. But when I play, Legend of Zelda, I just want to beat the last boss. But is that winning? It's not really winning. You're just beat the game. So I guess can be convoluted in the post, but I appreciated Vertec kind of clarifying. I was doing my best to do that, but I don't know. And then I'm a different person. I generally will start playing a game just for fun, just to see if I like it. It looked good. Something about it captured my attention. And then I end up, for me, what is fun, and this is kind of what I was getting at with the hardcore versus casual, what is fun for me is the hardcore. I find it, I like being in competition, even with myself. Getting better gear, beating something faster, feeling like I'm getting more powerful. That to me is fun, and feeling that progression is fun. And if I don't feel that progression, or if there's no challenge to it, I get bored, frankly. Going through retail on a level 100 or 120, going back to ICC and just wiping everybody with my one skill, just like a instant cast, whatever. It's fun to do that if you're doing it for the mount. That's very rare that drops, but outside of that, there's no challenge. It's not fun. That's what I like about Classic, is I was actually able to play that era of gameplay at current time. So I'm struggling through it. I just got to 80. It took me a very long time. It feels like it took me about a month or so to get to 80, even with the buff that just recently expired. And it's a bit of a grind, but it makes me appreciative, I guess, of the time that I spent to get there. Now, that being said, I will do that once and then I will boost a different character. Honestly, that's just me. I had fun doing it once, but I don't want that to be all of everything. Ashes, whole other game. Everything's gonna be the first time going through it. It's not me doing the same quest for the millionth time that was previously on a different one. Honestly, the most fun stuff has been the 70 to 80 content that I missed when I was younger, because that was already out and I was very, very, very casually playing because I was at my dad's house when I played it. So it was very rare that I got to play. So I missed all of this stuff. And by the time I hit 80, this stuff was already old stuff. So getting back on track with it is,
I think I play casually at first, and then once I figure out what I want from the game, then that shifts what is fun for me with the game. But for me, I think there shouldn't be a when did you play to win versus when did you have fun. I feel like it should be, is playing to win your version of having fun, or is it like when you get into playing Monopoly with people and you're starting to have fun with it until you're losing badly and then you become a sore loser. Like, I feel like that is the distinction there. Because you're not having fun because you're not feeling unequal. Like, there's something there that makes you feel like you're not equal grounding, I think, which is why you'd stop having fun. A lot of people that twink their characters, if you're PvPing them and they twink out their characters, you stop having fun because you're not on equal grounding. Like, one hit, you're dead. Like, I don't even see why that would be fun for long term, long enough to spend a whole bunch of in-game gold on that. Yeah.
But I do like these two quotes, one from Sir Ensington and one from Grumpy Guy.
Yeah.
Sir Ensington basically saying, for me, winning is fun. So go hard at work, problem solve, build metrics, get home, go even harder on something that is actually fun, but still going hard either way.
Right.
And Grumpy, I like to win on games that are fun. My sentiments exactly right there.
Right.
The game's not fun, I'm not going to play it, but if I'm playing it, I play to win. But I also, to kind of add on to it, talking about the hardcore versus like casual-ish. Yeah. I have a hot cold relationship with that. When I first play, especially in MMO, I'm very, I don't want to say casual because I go hard on it and I go deep and for like many hours.
Adventure mode.
Yeah, I go in like severe adventure mode, but I'm reading all the quests. I'm really getting into the story. I'm following. I may not go and do every quest in the game, but the quests that I do, I get into, and I make sure I'm following the entire story that I'm playing through. And I don't care when I get to max level. I'm gonna get there. Obviously, I'm not trying to take my time and go slow, but I'm not playing with the goal of hitting max level and like going to raid tomorrow. Yeah.
You're not gonna turbo snorse it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna turbo snorse it. But yeah, I'm gonna enjoy the story. I'm gonna do the quest. I'm gonna whatever. But then when I get up there with that character, I go full tilt, hardcore, gear up, play the bejeebus out of some raids and whatnot. But then like the next characters, I usually go for like fun concepts, and usually once I get geared out in like a hardcore raid, I'll have like a secondary build that's more like chill and kind of a fun theme to it. Like I'll pick some random skills that are just interesting. I find the play of them fun. And I'll go fiddle around in a run that's like full of casual people. Yeah. Just to joke around, to have fun and enjoy some stuff,
Yeah. To kind of tag onto that, I think it's also how the game is structured. And WoW has gotten a lot better at this, especially, just like what happens is people can tend to go hardcore in trying to min-max if there's a reason to. Right. Granted, there's leaderboards and you can do that if you wanted to, but if there's a raid already out day one, they're min-maxing so they can get into that raid tomorrow. But if like it's a staggered content, that's what WoW does, is they don't release the raid the very first week. They give it 2 weeks and then they release normal. If Ashes does that, that's going to be perfect. Like, let's say, the ocean boss releases 2 weeks after, and people have been able to explore nonstop, do the exploration. People know, but you have 2 weeks to min-max. You don't have to get winning, but you get to a point where you can be able to take down this boss. That's what really MMOs can be like. But when like Tower of Fantasy does have leaderboards, and so people have that competitive mentality that I'm going to have the most achievement points, and so there is different MMOs that have a different focus. But if you stagger the content in a reasonable manner, or even a month out, let people really, really dive deep, especially with how big the world is. And then they'll be ready. They won't even need a min-max in the first day and win automatically. But yeah, so there's that.
Yeah, I want to go over what some of the chat is saying. Hello, Nair. Welcome in. So we have Sir Huntington says, for me, winning is fun. We already read that. I'm too far up. Okay, there we go. Silverin says, I play for the game mastering efficacy. efficacy.
Efficacy.
I've said the word, I've never read it. If the game has no challenge in combat and no challenge in the combat, I'm not interested in. I think that may have been a duplicate, but yeah, I feel the same way. Challenge in the game is what they meant. Then yeah, once the game it doesn't become challenging anymore, it's not as fun. But then there's certain games that I play that are specifically not supposed to be challenging. It's more like critical thinking versus like pushing to get something, like overcome an enemy or something. It's more like, okay, how do I problem solve this? And I'm a bit like Sir Unsington in that, where like my job, I'm a web developer, so I'm solving problems all day, and then at night I get to just kind of min-max and try to see how to get the most out of my character so I can do the most damage, the most healing. And I feel like that's what I'm going to be bringing into Ashes as well. But don't get me wrong, I do also agree with what Grumpy Guy said, who says, I do also enjoy the RPG part of MMORPG from time to time as well. Not all about beating everything, something the MMORPG lands have been forgetting. And yeah, I feel like a lot of the newer version of MMORPGs have been, how much can we get you from A to B really quickly so you're just geared up or whatever, and just get through the content so that you can do end game content and beat the bosses and feel like you're winning, which yeah, awesome, that's great. But I personally enjoy, like, I'm the type of person who maybe I may not go with my guild in World of Warcraft specifically. I may not go with my guild into a dungeon I've never been in before. I might find a casual group to do that, because I would want to sit there and listen to the intro and like the cinematic for it and experience the story that they're trying to present, instead of, okay, let's just beat the boss and get this over with. Because again, that I like that part of it. I like getting immersed in the story, not necessarily the game. I feel like some people are paying attention too much to, I want to feel immersed in the game. I think what they mean is they want to feel immersion in the story, because I don't think you can 100% truly ever be immersed in a game, given that you're not physically in the game unless you're playing like on VR.
Sword Art Online. Sword Art Online.
Right, there you go. That's your immersion. That's how you're going to get it. Full dive. But I think it can kind of be a double-edged sword, but again, for me, the gameplay changes. So initially, I'm going to be pushing to get better gear and things like that. And then the next thing I'm going to be doing is enjoying learning the mechanics and things like that. And then the next mode comes out that's a little harder. And yeah, that's kind of a rinse and repeat thing to do. But for World of Warcraft specifically, that's how I enjoy my gameplay. For Horizon Zero Dawn, I love fighting an enemy and seeing how long it takes me to fight that enemy, and then coming back like a week later to see if I've progressed in my skill or if I've progressed in my armor enough to beat it down faster. And I kind of like pushing myself in that manner, where it's almost like to a level of like, is this a helpless situation, or can I barely skirt by with my life? And then coming back and seeing the progress later is just really fun, in my opinion. And that's what I get out of it.
Something, I think it was Undead Pally. Sorry, Vertec, to interrupt you there. But I was just going to say, because what happens in WoW is people that get access to the beta, they take their time, they listen to all the story, all that, like they read it all, and then they min-max when it launches. Because that's what people take advantage of, the alphas and the betas, get all the story, and then because they've already read all the story, they know what's going on, they click through all the stories and get all the way up to the end game, up to max level, and then get geared so they're ready for mythics and stuff. Right. So when MMOs do alphas and betas, that helps out as well. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other thing that Undead Pally said is A2 is for min-maxing. And, outside of the, testing and pushing your character and all that, no matter what anybody thinks about min-maxers, you want your min-maxers in A2. You want them to break everything they can and push to the limits and find out that, holy crap, do you realize how strong that is? If people do this and that and the other, let's find a way to down-tune that just a little bit. They're not using this at all. They actually minimize this down to 0 because it's absolutely useless. Let's change that.
And in a way, you want those kind of game-breaking things to be done because that's how balancing it gets involved. I know when I was initially doing video game design art, one of my courses was I had to make a game. And so I was super into racing at the time. So I was trying to make, I don't know if you've ever played The Crew or whatever, but I was trying to make a card game where you upgrade your car. You have a starter car that you start off with, and then you also have crew that help you with certain things. And by playing with multiple people, I found so many different things that were so overpowered when combined in a certain manner that it was just easy to kill the other person with it. And I wouldn't have found that if we didn't do the testing. And I feel like that goes very hand in hand with video game testing. Like, you don't know what is super OP, like D&D, super OP builds, until somebody makes it. And then you're like, oh, maybe don't do that one.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. That kind of takes me to augments and stat requirements. Let me grab this for the chat to look at. Here you guys go. This is by a neuro guy. It's a bit lengthy, but kind of TLDR. Is that what if alongside the level requirement, your augments required a stat threshold to be used? So, for example, a high sword, fighter primary, cleric secondary, for example, will augment the fighter abilities with cleric-themed augments. What if each augment required some intellect, will, or wisdom stats more aligned with the cleric to be utilized? Kind of going...
I love it.
Some augments that heavily modify an ability may require more stats and thus require itemization choices that meet those requirements. What are your thoughts on that? Basically, saying that the secondary augments, you need to pay attention to what stats you use because of the secondary. Very, very TLDR.
Well, real quick, I want to give Sir Onsington my thoughts on that last statement.
Oh, no.
So, let me just say, you folks, if you want to rewind back probably like 25 episodes or more, anytime PvP came up and like open world PvP, it was always not a fan, don't like it.
Oh my gosh.
Blah, blah. But here lately,
I'm being thrown under the bus. Here it comes.
After there was like an experience boost thing to some battlegrounds in classic Lich King, we're now wandering around, and out of nowhere there's a completely quiet chibi just kind of talking quietly, blah blah blah, and then out of nowhere, oh my god, does anyone want to murder a pally? Anyone looking to hunt down some alliance? There's some alliance out here.
To be fair, it's not out of nowhere. They ganked us, okay? And we have some guild members who enjoy that, so I thought I'd mention it just in case they're bored and looking to take out people who are ganking people that are just trying to level. So, context, friend, context.
We understand what's going on here. She just wants to murder all of Alliance.
Oh no, honestly.
Is Varian still in Classic? King Varian Rin?
I'm not really sure.
He's still alive.
Oh yeah, back in Lich King, yeah, he was. Yeah,
Chibi's out. She's out to get Varian, man. Chibi, he's dead. He's dead.
Or undead.
But,
dun dun dun.
dun, dun, dun. But yeah, Turgo, did you have a thought on that already, or because I already have my thoughts on
the
this
stat
one.
requirements, just to realize.
This is a pretty lengthy one, and I'm just trying to process it. So
yeah,
well,
go ahead.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on this is I think it would be kind of a bad idea to do that on a couple different reasons. For one of them, how bad is it going to feel that a core component of the game is going to also require you to build your character a specific way to even use those augments, not just, hey, I'm a warrior or a fighter rather, and I'm going to add some cleric. And this is what I'm going to do now. And oh, wait. To be the best fighter, which is your main class, and the core features of the fighter are going to be hit things with stuff with blades or hammer edges and survive by pure fighting skill. but now I got to dump a whole lot of that stuff and go into some, wisdom and intellect to even use any augments. That would feel absolutely terrible, because then you're not really, I don't think, able to fully flex into that. Now, if you needed to add some of that stuff to be actually effective with some of that stuff, like self heals and pulling life out of another person, like leeching life, which is kind of a cleric-y theme with the way that they're building cleric anyway.
Necro theme, yeah.
Yeah, like it's kind of almost necro themed when you really think about it. Like, clerics are the masters of life and death, and they're pulling life from things and giving it to others. And the more you hurt somebody, the more healing you can give to your party. Yeah, it's very necro themed. I love it. But in order to get that kind of a theme, I could see it being more effective if you added more like intel or wisdom or what have you. But the summoner cleric is a necro, but just in general, it's very, very necro themed. Like drawing life out of people has always been a necrotic thing. But I think it should just be available, and you can make some things more effective. But then there's some augments that I think, even if it were done in a way where there were stat requirements, it wouldn't really matter. Like the one that they always give, the example they always give, where it's a fighter that gets a mage secondary, and instead of running to bash somebody with their shoulder or whatever, they would just teleport, like blink over and smack them. That one, I mean, I wouldn't think that should have an intel requirement. You're a mage, you blink, that's what you do.
Right, I could see that.
So from what I'm reading here, and man, he went so in detail. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to kind of compare this to WoW, because sometimes it feels like with these augments, it can get too convoluted, especially for people starting out. But then down in the end game, keeping all of these different augments balanced all the time to make it where it's not saying that it can very easily where one of these augments can get where that's where the alphas and the betas are for. But oh yeah, BB augment talk. But no, I think augments are going to be good, but I don't think that they need to be over like how he is saying it. You know what I mean? Enchantments are good enough in WoW, like something where he said it, like as long as your high sword is high enough stat, then the augment goes to that one, and then if it's not, then it goes to the other portion of your archetype. I think that's a little too complicated from what I can understand. I'm just trying to process all that. I think basic augments like, hey, this is gonna raise your int and you can go for it, but for the end game, I don't know how they're going to be able to do it properly. It's a complicated system. I think WoW does it fine. So with FF14, they use materia. You actually make materia and you put it on. Right. I think that's fine as well. But with augmenting, and if this and that happen, then you get this augment. I don't know. I think it could be fun, but it could also be too much for a lot of the player base to worry about but for the tryhards, that'd be fun for them. That's why I'm kind of torn, because it would be fun for certain people, but not for everybody, Right.
And then that kind of ends up being one of those things where if you're not a hardcore tryhard type of person, then you are kind of lumped against those people, because those people will always be kind of outstatted against you, kind of thing. Because what do we like to do? We like to min-max our stats. Take none in the stat array that's not going to help your character, and take as much as you possibly can that makes sense in the stat array that does help your character. And I'm sure there's gonna be casuals that play like that. At least I know a lot of people that play D&D kind of casually that would like to do that. But I think the augments on that will be one of those interesting things. What do you think of them being kind of more like an end game thing versus during the whole game? Like you reach level 50 and then your end game is to increase your stats to be able to fight the bigger things.
I think that's very reasonable. I think when you're going through the leveling process, especially with it being a similar, I think that the augment would be pretty good to be able to like, oh, this is the ocean boss and we're going to face him and we're going to augment our gear to be able to help with that. Maybe it's like lightning up by 10 and then you do more damage to that. That'd be dope, especially since the weather affects your abilities now in this as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be a good thing, but I don't know. This question is kind of hard for me because this wall of text. I'm just trying to process.
Oh yeah, it's all good. I kind of pick out what I'm looking for when there's the wall of text like that, because this next one is also a wall of text.
No, what were you saying? Or just to make sure I'm on the same page of what you're asking. So you don't get stats until you hit max level, and then you get stats? You
get stats, but I'm talking about like min-maxing your stats, the whatever additional thing to help min-max your stats. Like, you know how like towards the end levels, you get like the really good gems that help you with really maximizing your stats in WoW.
Oh yeah, I think that's like every game when it comes to that thing. You're always going to get the more powerful boost when you hit the max level with stuff. But
yeah, but some games do sprinkle it in throughout a little bit, and so just to kind of keep it as one of those, like you'll more often see a level 50 with like super optimized stats compared to like a level 25 with super optimized stats is kind of what I was getting at. What is the stat going into? What is the stat going into the more influencing archetype side from? Has more info been released on augments recently? No, this is just pure speculative, I think. Just chatting about like how augments might work or could possibly work or should work. But I think inevitably there's going to be the min-maxers, and then there's going to be the people that don't really care about min-maxing. And in a very PvP oriented game like Ashes, that's going to make a difference, I think. Even in end game content. Just like people that prefer not pro, but are like more so pro PvP versus PvE will out PvP a PvEer in World of Warcraft. Because the way that the gear is statted is just in favor of the PvPer. Now, will that PvPer live very long in a dungeon? Probably not. Or a raid, rather. So, yeah, it's one of those things. But I do enjoy the idea that Ashes is going to have one gear set between PvP and PvE instead of here's your PvP gear, here's a PvE gear.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah. That's good.
Also, it takes up a lot less backspace.
Yeah.
So, the next one is risk and reward versus corruption. Because I feel like these are pretty well tied. The corruption system allows open world PvP to happen at any time and place, albeit with ill-defined risk and reward conditions in some scenarios. In this person's opinion, Trunker from the forums. The effects of corruption will need to be balanced, probably in Alpha 2. Absolutely in Alpha 2. This is going to be a core system. If it doesn't get balanced in Alpha 2, it's not destined for a good ending. So that amount of PvP is set at a desirable level. Heavy corruption effects will deter open world PvP completely. Light corruption effects will allow for rampant ganking. So, Turgo, you play on a PvE server, PvP server?
Yeah, I play on a PvE. Yep, Emerald Dream. Yep.
Okay. And you've done the Outlands content where it's forcibly open world. I imagine, have you been ganked a whole lot while playing?
You're talking about, what is that zone? Yes, I have been ganked. There's the 3 towers where you can get ganked.
Yeah. And so I bring this up. I'm for the glory. I'm laying this out in a particular way because Ashes is hoping, right, to minimize the ganking in terms of increasing the amount of corruption you get, dependent on how big the difference in levels are between you and the person getting ganked, or you and the person ganking you, depending on which view you want to look at it. And so I was kind of the direction I'm trying to go with this is, what are your thoughts with the open world PvP? Do you think the corruption system will thoroughly deter people from doing open world PvP, or do you think it might more so deter people from open world ganking more so?
What was the corruption aspect one more time? Because I couldn't.
So in general, corruption happens if you are green and another player is, say, purple, I believe is the color for PvP. They kill you and you don't fight back. They turn red. They get corruption because you didn't fight back. It was not a consensual PvP situation.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't see about that. Okay.
If you do fight back, you also turn purple and they don't get corruption from it.
Okay. Okay.
And then the final part of that.
I think that's perfect. I think that's perfect. Yeah.
I like that too. And the final part of that is if you get enough corruption, as you gain more corruption, your abilities, that how good you are at fighting somebody will kind of deter, kind of like res sickness in WoW, how you're kind of useless when you choose to grave res. It'll end up becoming that way the more you stack up corruption, if you will.
Oh, so if you constantly are trying to start fights with people and with all these people that don't want to fight, your corruption is going to be so high, it's going to be, you're going to be diminished. Okay.
Right. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's actually a good system because, I mean, I think there should be also zones where there is no corruption stack at all. But if it's like a main like travel place between nodes and it's, I don't know, that's kind of, it'd have to be dictated based off of the player base and feedback to them on these areas, corruption stacks, and then these other areas. I mean, of course, there's the instance battlegrounds and there's that. But
right.
Yeah, I think that's a great system because I've known of, open world PvP. With the war mode, people want it. They want the extra experience in WoW, but then they're like, there's that guy just still sitting there for the 10th time killing me just on this one quest. So I think the corruption system is good because then eventually this person keeps, and then also it's a mutual thing.
Right.
I think that's consensual PvP is great. Chef's kiss for sure, because that's good because you want to be able to go out and experience the world, and then if you do fight, there you go. But I think it's perfect.
And to Sir Unsington's point, yes, if you don't fight back, you do lose some of your goods. However, if you keep getting corruption, you will actually drop your gear that you're wearing. You will lose your gear. So I am personally, from my end, if I am not interested, if I think you are too high of a level for me to overcome, I will not fight you back because I'm going to lose anyway. I'm happy to lose a little bit of the stuff that I've gone out and done, or maybe I will next time bring some friends who are better at PvP than I am. Because I'm kind of slow when it comes to PvP. I don't have that fast reaction, which is part of the reason.
The cost of doing business.
Right, exactly. So then you bring friends and you're like, okay, well, if I want to get this stuff, then I have to incentivize them somehow, but then at least I'm not like dying and dropping stuff. So it's like, it's one of those things. But also as a PvP person, the other side of that is, okay, when you fight somebody, if they don't fight you back, you have that option to not fight them anymore. Right. They're clearly not fighting you. If you don't kill them, you don't get corruption. Got ganked, paid my PvP taxes.
Exactly. So does somebody have to manually PvP flag themselves?
I believe so.
Out in the world.
It's one of those things like somebody has to manually turn on if they want to be able to attack somebody else.
Okay.
With like
but if
AOEs
you're getting attacked
like
and you're responding, I think it auto flags you.
Yeah, so if you respond by attacking back, then you're flagged as a combatant. If you don't attack back, then you're a non-combatant.
Right.
But if you don't attack back, so how are they able to attack you if they're not even, like, if you're not even flagged? You know what I mean? How are they able to actually take down your health if you're not even flagged?
The way the system, the way the flagging part of it works is you would turn on or off the ability to accidentally hit somebody else is what it is.
Oh. Okay.
Like with AoEs.
So like if you're AoE, yeah.
There was a time in Alpha 1, I think, where we were AoEing and like the devs ended up becoming combatants. It was fun.
And you killed the devs.
The defender doesn't flag, it's the attacker that flags.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if that's what I mean by the colors. So a purple person is somebody who is flagged. A green person is somebody who is not flagged. So if a purple person kills a green person and the green person doesn't respond, they stay green, then the purple person will become red because they killed a non-combatant. But if you do respawn, you become purple, and then it's equal footing at that point.
I could see a lot of accidents happening with that, though, because like you're just attacking a boar and you do an AoE and that person attacks you and you did the AoE and that actually they might have to flag where if you do a single target attack against that purple guy. Because like look at the video and that's playing right now. You have an AoE and then that flagged hits you and then your AoE hits them. And then they're like, oh, well, you're flagged. Okay, free game. Let's go. You know, like,
yeah,
so that's what I feel like you'd have to flag it where if they do a single target attack against you, manually attack.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's set up right now. There's settings, and it's going to be persistent where one of the flags is AoE damage won't hit people like friendlies.
Oh, okay.
And the other one is AoE healing will not hit corrupt people or combatants.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like,
what TL said also.
Exactly. So that you don't accidentally hit somebody with an AoE at all.
And the other thing is there's no factions in Ashes. So it's not like you can or cannot attack the opposite faction. It's factionless. So everybody is quote unquote on the same side.
Until you start fighting.
Until you start fighting, right. Then they're obviously on the opposite. But that's kind of what they were talking about with the risk and reward versus corruption. So like, do you fight back and risk possibly dying, thus gaining XP debt, but you don't lose your goods? Or do you choose to lose some of your goods, but I mean, I think you still get XP debt, although I think it's a little less as a green. I'm not really quite sure what that situation is, but it's like if you don't fight back, you don't become a combatant, but you do drop some of the stuff that you've been gathering. If you do fight back, you don't drop it. And I don't know what the death con is on that, but that's something they're still, I think, ironing out even, but it's definitely not going to be what it was in A1. That's for sure.
yeah. But
it's going to be changed across the board.
It is definitely lots of testing, lots of configuration of that. But to kind of address the post that they made,
right?
I think adding the system that they're discussing and trying to suggest would be an absolute disaster. It would add so much complication to everything that doesn't need to have that complication, because the greed meter they're talking about adding to gathering, what that is you're stripping the resources from the land and the land reacts. Like, you don't need the PvP to change that. You don't need PvP to react to that. Like, it's... And the funny thing is the way it was phrased, though, is add PvP systems in order to reduce the number of PvP encounters that must solely rely on corruption to balance the risk and reward. But yet their example basically says that if somebody gathers too much, then you can murder them without repercussion. Is what that basically boils down to in that example. So the more they gather, the more the greed meter rises, and then they can become open to PvP without the attacker risking corruption. So they're actually getting rid of risk versus reward. And on the PvP end, and adding more risk versus reward to the PvE end, which they're already risking it if they're going out gathering and carrying a bunch of stuff, and potentially getting ganked out there and dropping their items. That's already plenty of risk versus reward for me.
Right. Sorry, I was just putting in some chat about that. I went and looked it up on the wiki. Thank you, Lex, and all the other hardworking people that keep our wiki alive. And yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people have really, I'm going to say quote unquote good, because it may be a good idea on paper. So people have good ideas, but they do overcomplicate when it comes to actuality and instilling those systems. And while an idea may be good, does not mean that it's ideal or that it should work or that it will work. It's nice to have a space that Ashes gives us with being able to present these ideas and these thoughts that we have in mind. But the downside of that is a lot of us aren't game designers, and we don't know what works together and what doesn't work together in terms of what they already have built. But also, just because something sounds fun and sounds awesome doesn't mean, again, that it overcomplicates things or doesn't overcomplicate things. And that overcomplication could be why somebody would rather not play the game than play the game. I think finding a solution that's simple, not overly complex, but also as balanced as they possibly can is an important thing. And for Turgo, I looked it up real quick. So a non-combatant, a green player who dies, suffers the normal XP penalties, which includes skill and stat dampening, lower health and mana, lower gear proficiency, and reduction in drop rates for monsters, as well as durability lost. And dropping us a percentage of carried gatherables and materials that are used in the generation of something else.
Whoa, and that's just like a regular player out in the world?
That's just a green person, yeah. A combatant or a purple player who dies suffers the same penalties, but at half the rate of a non-combatant. So your durability loss will be half as much if you fight back. Your reduction in drop rates will be half as much if you fight back. And then a corrupted red player suffers penalties at 4 times the rate of a non-combatant. So if you don't fight back and they become corrupted, they suffer 4 times the penalties, 4 times the skill and stat dampening, 4 times the reduction in drop rates, 4 times the durability loss, and dropping weapons and gear that becomes available.
Okay, so if I was, because while I was listening to Vertec, I had to run to the other room here, but when I was hearing, I was like, basically this sounds like Sea of Thieves, because you go out and get all this loot from this island, and then you come back and your ship is like, you got all this loot, and if you don't make it back in time, you lose that. So the green is you lose the lowest amount. The combatant is half, you said, if you become a combatant, and then the red is they lose the most. Basically.
Yeah. So okay. Purple loses the least, green loses average, and red loses the most.
Okay, but if I just walk out in the world outside of a node, do I become green or am I purple?
You're green, unless you flag specifically to be purple.
Okay, so it's instigating people to become purple so that you have less of a chance of losing, like you lose less stuff.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Which is why I would say, depending on the level of the other person. So for example, if I'm a level 20 and they're a level 40, I'm not going to fight them back, because in my opinion, they shouldn't be trying to pick a fight with the level 20. I've got no chance of fighting you back.
Somebody's going to accidentally do it anyway. It's going to happen.
Yeah, they'll get a lot of corruption from that too. So that's the trade-off. Is you're always basically the default setting for everybody is green.
Yeah.
If you instigate combat with somebody, you become purple. If they respond to that combat, they become purple. Now, if you are a combatant and you kill somebody who's green, they're going to lose a lot of experience. They're going to lose a lot of their goods, but you are going to gain corruption. So you're going to go red.
Right.
If a purple person kills a purple person, the person drops less items and they lose less experience.
Right.
But if anybody kills somebody who's red, so they're corrupted, I think I made the connection on why the name is red, because they're treated in the eyes of the game system, they're treated like a monster in the world. Mm-hmm. You don't gain corruption from killing them. You can gain items and stuff that they can just drop, including worn gear. There's a chance to drop any gear that they're actually wearing or even in their bag.
However, never gold. Just putting that out there.
Never gold.
Players do not lose gold upon death, no matter what their corruption level is.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is also, with the wider level difference, the more corruption you gain as well. So the big risk versus reward question is, if you're out gathering and someone comes across to try to gank you and take the items that you're holding, do you let them kill you so they get corrupted, and then maybe a bounty hunter will come along and slay them? Or
there's bounty hunters. See, I missed some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I missed some of their showcases, so I didn't know that. So
so there's going to be guilds that are going to be and have already said that that's their plan, that are particularly for searching out and finding those reds and destroying them, because like I believe when you have corruption, it'll be like a dot on your screen, or to let them know where you are, pretty much.
Oh, okay. There's another game that has that. I think WoW had it at one point, for PvP.
I know that this is very close to, I believe, Arcade and Lineage systems. That is after all the games that Steven has played and takes inspiration from. But basically what he's doing is he's taking those systems and he's doing what he thinks would be improving upon them to make them better and more fair in his eyes. And it's our job to test it to make sure that it does that. But I just wanted to add, just to get back to the whole fair PvP and like open world and things like that. Death penalties mostly do not apply to objective-based PvP, such as like, this is my words, this part, such as like castle sieges and things like that. However, gear degradation applies on death during a caravan PvP. And right now, death penalties do not differ between PvP and PvE, but this is subject to change, obviously, because we're in alpha. So, however, I thought it was really funny. Death by drowning is possible, and players that drown will be respawned on shore. And then if you have a mule, because you can use a mule to go from one place to another and carry your goods. If you have a mule and you die, your mule will be there for a bit of time before it despawns. And other players must kill that player, like whoever's mule, to be able to loot it. If a player's mule dies, its corpse will contain the same percentage of lootable items as the player.
Okay.
Just some other stuff.
I was still really sad I didn't get to play Alpha 1 because there's a lot of knowledge you guys have that I was like, what? I didn't even hear it until just now that you guys I'm like, oh man, it's just making me like more and more excited because I'm like, there's so much. Honestly, it's an ambitious MMO and I can't wait.
Absolutely. Honestly, I think Alpha 2 will be much more optimized because in Alpha 1, I had to recreate my character because I died so many times. Totally not drinking poison. I died so many times. It was faster and better.
You could drink poison?
I didn't. I wasn't supposed to. I think it was for a different class's quest, and I didn't realize it was poison. It was just a flask of something, and I thought another player killed me, so I rezzed, and then I came back and I drank it again, and then I realized that's what killed me. And then I had to make a new character because that was going to be faster to get to the same level as fighting the horrific XP debt that was in Alpha 1, which was, they were aware pretty quickly that was way too much XP debt for what it was. So, yeah, it was fun.
That's great.
But yeah, I think that the stuff the systems that they have currently, we just need to give it a chance before we try to fix it, right? You can't fix something before it's created because you don't know how it's going to feel. You don't know how it's going to be. And once you test it, then I think that's when the fixing can come in. That's when you can have a better stake, I guess, for reference of giving this feedback. So,
Yep.
I'm going to move into tanking and boss mechanics. Because this kind of has that same feel, but on the opposite side. This is coming from GUI10, who asked, should open world PvP be level restricted to a degree?
Where should... Oh.
Like, would it ruin your game experience if you can't level up because every time you step outside of town, you get PK'd by someone who gets no reward out of it except for the feeling of destroying low levels, which honestly, again, enter the corruption system. But
I honestly think
that
they could even have like where you can't attack somebody lower than 20 levels below you. If you're a max level, you can't attack 30s. I don't know. They could do that. If they could do that, I don't know if there's some sort of like aura or protection that they could do, because that's going to be a huge thing, especially people that love to PK. They would kill so many. They would get a raid of PKers. Look at Sword Art Online. It's a real thing. People love to do it. So I think they would have to create some sort of aura or really dire corruption where half your stats go down to 50% after you kill like 2 of them, you know, like something like that to restrict that. So
Right. That makes sense. I
that's what
think.
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, Vertec.
I was just saying, I think it's if there's literally a raid of people going around just murder hoboing, that might be a little difficult to stop, but at some point they're gonna have to
Right.
stop and go do something to get rid of all that corruption.
Right.
Because even if they did one person at a time, one person in the raid killed one person and then they moved on and kept going, eventually there's going to be a point where it's just going to start to get too burdensome. And if they all get reduced down in effectiveness, then there's going to be a level of 20 PK corrupted people running around, and they get taken down by a party of 5
Yeah.
that are at full strength and ready specifically to go bounty hunting.
Right. And
But,
I mean, I think that is like a really good point, right? Because in my opinion, then I don't see a reason to level restrict PvP.
Yeah, I don't think there is, because I think people are just overreacting to or not really overreacting, they're just overestimating how much player killing just with evil intent and no gain that there's going to be in Ashes. Like
Right.
they ignore the fact that there is the corruption system at all, and they think that they're going to go out as a level 3 and they're just going to get murdered all day long every day, and it's not going to happen.
If you compare that to WoW, where there is no corruption system, there is no anything against a player that PKs you. If anything, they're rewarded because they get honor points out of it. I do want to say I do like that you don't get durability loss in PvP with World of Warcraft. So I guess at least then I'm not also having to repair my gear after being ganked. But that being said, I'm not terrified of every single Alliance person I come across. I'm not terrified of them. I see them. I keep an eye on them. And most of them let you just go about your business with the occasional, yeah, I'm going to gank this person. And I mean, I think my initial stance on PvP was based off of World of Warcraft's PvP system, because that is the only game I've ever experienced PvP. And then when Elion came out and our guild was testing it, I found that to be fun. That was structured PvP, and I'd never done structured PvP with other people. It'd always been by myself. And then now we're in World of Warcraft with our guild, and somebody is like, oh, somebody ganked you? Who are they? Let me know. And we had literally the whole raid coming over, and before the raid, trying to take out whatever alliance was ganking us, because we were like level 70 something, just trying to get through the HP area, and these level 80s were coming on at us and like ganking us just because they didn't like that we were trying to fight a certain mob. I don't know, but it's one of those things where like you can kind of tell a good identifier on somebody if they're going to try to gank you or not. And then there's the other things of like, if you're not sure, just kind of keep an eye on them while you keep doing whatever you're doing. But yeah, I mean, if in World of Warcraft, where there is not a corruption system, I don't have to be scared of every single alliance that I come across. I don't think it's going to feel the same way with Ashes, especially because there is a corruption system.
It's going to be far, far, far less. And yeah, T-Elf, they did turn off PvP in Alpha 1, but there were some extenuating circumstances there.
Yes.
I guess Steven may have been getting chased around, but also people were literally just murder hoboing because they just wanted to, and there was zero penalty. Remember, corruption wasn't the thing that existed in Alpha 1.
Right.
So they're
People were
adding
murder
it.
hoboing because they were being weird and there was no penalty to it. That's
Also,
what happens when there's no corruption.
To add to that, Steven did ask people to not do PvP because that's not what they were testing, and people weren't listening.
Yeah.
So as a result, they turned it off. They said, hey guys, we're focusing on this. Could you please test this? And then people weren't listening. So like, if you don't listen to, like, I mean, if a developer or a person who's running a testing scenario is asking you to test something and you're not listening, I mean, this is, in my opinion, this is the difference between paying to test something and being paid to test something. Because you're paying for access to Alpha 1, and for a lot of people that there's like, I paid for early access. Cool, whatevs. But like when I went to these game testing things, I was paid to test the game. So I took it very seriously because the paycheck that I was getting relied on that. And so, yeah, I would do exactly as the person was asking. And I mean, I bring that same into Alpha 1 regardless. I did pay for it, yes, but I paid for it because I want to test it and I want to help them with whatever systems. But those who aren't a part of that, I guess, type of work.
I think what's going to happen is it's going to be absolutely fine. Here's what's going to happen is there's going to be sects, of places in the world where it's going to be a problem.
Right.
But the world's going to be so freaking huge that it's like, all right, I'm going to go over here, or I'm just going to go to a different area. Yeah. I'm just going to ride my mountain, go over here, do other things, and it'll settle down in a couple hours. That's how New World is. Right. I remember that, like the city, there would be people just camping right outside, ready for PvP. Like, let's go, Right. They could even like, maybe there's like a little, if you level up your node enough, you can, if at 10 minutes after you walk outside of the node, you have like this aura. And then once that drops off, it's full free game. They can do some mitigation of these people, like 40, 50, 60 people of just all they're doing is just going around killing. And with that corruption, that's great. That's great because 25%, 50%, 75%, where a 20 level 20 could kill you. I think that's completely great if they're just constantly killing people that don't want to do it. Right. And then it's going to deter them, but there's also the thing with WoW where it's multi-boxing. Maybe they'll get another account and just go back and do it again. And there's these people that do it because that's what they find fun in the game. So
Solverin says, sometimes your weapon just wants to kiss people violently on the forehead. It's no big deal.
There's going to be a lot of sex. Yeah. I know, surrounding. Exactly. But it's just like, there's going to be certain areas where there's going to be a lot of PvP because maybe a resource is needed. But not everywhere. And with the big world and people starting in different places, people culminating to different places within the world, I think it's going to be fine.
Right. I agree. And I mean, honestly, at the end of this, like, I think Steven and Intrepid know what their goal is, and they're going to find a way to reach that goal. And they're probably not going to stop working on it and fine tuning it until it's in a position, in a place where they feel confidently that it's representative of the type of game that they want to offer out. But I like that idea of like a buff or a debuff, even where like, when you graveyard res, you have like a small debuff on you where you're not worth any honor to the opposite faction in World of Warcraft, right? So something like that to deter
kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's kind of cool. And I want to move on over, unless Vertec, you had anything else to add?
No, ready to move on.
Okay. AI intelligence and centering bosses by Solverin. And a lot of people, when it comes to AI, they get very nervous because ultimately, if you teach something AI and it continues to learn, it can get out of hand really quickly. The AI will outsmart your player pretty quickly if you let it. But Solverin's post here says, after leaving the office hours with a good feeling, we had started the discussion on mob AI and its intelligence. So I think it's important to cover the other half of the threat, and that's with AI. I think it's important for AI to have intelligence and create dynamic encounters to where no encounter is choreographed and every encounter is a unique experience. The question came up, how do the devs achieve intelligence and meaningful AI if it is possible to code, have the boss coded to react and respond to the fight, and if possible, learn to a degree? And I think if we really decay that learning, I think it would be good. Or like after X amount of fights, then it learns something. But because I think that would be really cool, right? Adapt and overcome. That's what we do as players. We fight a boss, we figure out what its mechanic is, and then and then we overcome it through strategies and like working together and trying to overcome that. And I think it would be cool to have a boss do the same after a certain period of time. But I want to hear your guys' opinions.
This is an interesting thought because I'm so used to, every encounter being pretty much the same in F14 and WoW. And I think what happens is there should be AI intelligence up to a certain limit of different abilities.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So let's say because the player base is fighting this boss, there's like 10 different ways this boss can react, but the AI dictates how this raid is fighting them. And then I'm going to do it. And it's a unique experience, but I think having just like AI is honestly limitless. It could do everything, right?
Right.
So like, I think it should be limited. Yeah. I think that's really great because when you go in and do that boss fight, every time pretty much is different up until you eventually see all the different ways that boss can react to the raid. So I think that's great. I think that's cool because it's like making it where you can't just make a video on how this boss does. There's guides on YouTube all the time. The guide would be like, hey, in this situation, this is going to happen if you do this with the boss. It makes it much more dynamic. I think that's great, but I just don't think it should be, 100 different possibilities because it's it would be a lot. It would be a lot for me just because I think of the player base that is going to go in and dive into Ashes. They're used to WoW and used to FF14 and there's set abilities that they do. And I think having too much can be overwhelming. So I think it's like maybe 10 and have the AI pick based off of how the raid is interacting with the boss would be good.
Yeah. I like that.
I think that there can be a balance that's struck.
Okay.
I think adding too much AI, especially to too many bosses, that's truly like machine learning style AI, like learning what you're doing and committing it to memory and adapting and overcoming and all that. Mm-hmm. Adding too much of that to too many enemies on a single server is going to do incredible damage to the processing power. It's going to slow down a lot of stuff and cause many other portions of the game to suffer.
Okay.
Including just frame rates and update rates, and latency is going to go up and all that because it's going to be making so many decisions for literally thousands of sprites out there at once.
On the network side, right?
On the network side, on the server side, like the server itself, the hardware.
Right.
It's going to be doing all that, and then it's going to be sending out all these updates of the thing that it's doing, and it's going to be kind of a mess if it gets too smart. But I think that they could adapt some AI into some boss mechanics so that they're able to kind of feel out, is this a range heavy fight or is this a melee heavy fight? And they'll do more melee type swings and power moves for a melee heavy group. If it's a range heavy group, then they're going to start throwing rocks or like jumping and pouncing on the range groups or something like that. If there's more healers, then maybe, I don't know, there's going to be some form of attack that they have that reduces healing outbound or something. And
or
if
like a
tanks,
thing that you have to heal off completely before it falls off.
And if the tanks are above a certain threshold of damage, then they start doing more damage to every move that they have gains more damage. Every single one of them. If the tanks are over certain like armor, defense, or mitigation or health threshold. Right. That way it makes you kind of suffer for trying to optimize too much or trying to overpower something, and it's going to just gain power because of that. And like maybe movesets can change based on a single decision after analyzing the group. It shifts into another phase, and that phase could be just one of a couple options, and that's it, rather than continual learning and continual growth and adaptation.
Okay.
But
I think
adjust movesets, blocks of them.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt you. Okay. I just was gonna tag on real quick. I'm so sorry. If they were to have like a lot of different AI abilities, but within an instanced and not open world, so leave the world bosses to what Vertech was saying. But if it's an instance like Vault of the Incarnates or Ice Crown Citadel, where it's instanced and you can have a lot more AI, but it's in an instance thing and it's not affecting the overall world server, I think that's where they can implement this more AI ability, variance. You know what I mean? So,
and I mean,
in theory.
that ties in pretty well with what I was going to say, because I was going to say limit it down. I mean, instances are going to be far and few between with Ashes. There's not going to be your daily dungeon or whatever. There might be a dungeon, but it's going to be open world dungeon. It's not going to be an instance thing. They want some things to be instanced, and they want other things to be open world. So it's going to be literally PvE, like everything, like players and boss and monsters, but I was thinking kind of like what Solvern was just saying. This is actually perfect. You guys are all aligning to make my point. When a node levels, whatever spawns, I think should have some sort of AI to it. To Solvern's point, if it's the same thing that comes back, like there was a dungeon, your node leveled because you were mining and the dragon got upset at you and you beat down the dragon, and maybe the next dragon learns from that mechanic or that fight, and when your node levels up again, maybe the dragon is angry that the previous dragon didn't finish you off, but has learned from that fight to a degree and becomes harder. It's not going to be the same thing.
No.
Or like you were saying with the instance things. But sorry, real quick, let me finish this thought. The question I want to propose then is an AI thing something better for like Elden Ring? Or does it have a place in the MMO? That's what I want to pose.
I don't think it's a black and white. I think it's a question of which shade of gray to go with. Because if you're talking about doing more advanced AI in instanced dungeons where they could quite literally transport your character to a completely different server, that the server itself is focused on doing nothing but dungeons, instance dungeons and raids, and that's all it does. It doesn't do anything else for any of the rest of the world. Then maybe that could be a thing, but your load times to get in the dungeon are going to be longer.
Right.
Because it's gonna have to copy everything about your character that it could possibly have anything to do with in combat. Whatever your character is carrying, it's got to be duplicated, copied over, exactly for all characters in the party and or raid. And then at that point, it could do some calculations on what your party is, what skills you have, and then maybe learn some stuff from that alone.
I doubt.
Nice. But like that could be a thing in theory, but when it comes to the fact that they said like 80% of the fights are going to be open world,
right?
Oof, no, that's going to be a wreck, because what's going to happen is it's going to end up quote unquote learning from part of the group that's in there to begin with, and then another group comes in, it's going to start to learn some things there, and then another group comes in, it's going to learn some things there, and after all these intensive calculations and everything, it's going to end up right back where it started, thinking it's smarter, but it's, if anything, worse, because it's not going to have a clue what the next group is going to be, and the next group is going to take it over easy peasy, because it adapted to, and all magic resistance party and blah blah blah, and the next group's going to be all melee resistant and the range DPS, and it's gonna absolutely wreck the boss because it adapted to whatever the previous groups did, and it's going to be an absolute train wreck. I think an instant, like a snapshot adjustment of whatever the party is comprised of when they walk in, that might be helpful, because it can just go and say have a few different options for a skill set, and then that skill set can be adjusted up or down in either damage or debuffing or whatever, based on how strong the party is.
Yeah.
And then maybe add some extra mechanics, but they're already built in, and it's going to add those only if it's a certain level strength of party. And I think that might be the easiest and best thing that could happen, is just a scalable but predetermined set of boss stuff. And yeah, sure, randomize when the abilities come out. Yeah, like, hey, do a random number generator at the very instigation of the fight, and that's the timer for that.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Like, the AI just does a random pick, like, hey, there's 10 ways this fight can go, and it just randomly picks number 9. This is how this fight is, and it's 10 different fights. That's enough for the player base, if you think about it, considering that, wow, if you fight a dragon, it always has the same abilities every single time when you face that. When you have 10 different variants, that's gonna be. It feels different, pretty much all the time until you kill that dragon, probably 20, 30 times, and then. But it was still. And by that time, they'll release another boss with more AI generated, and even then, they can add take out 2, add 2 later. And I think that would be perfect without, sending AI throughout all the different mobs throughout the world, because it's some of these mobs are going to be going straight up into the sky eventually because they don't know where they're going.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, real quick, I want to put a pause on this. Turgo, I know you have some pre-made plans. How are we doing on time? How much time do we have
I have
left?
10 more minutes.
Okay, cool. I think this is a great time to really quick wrap this up. Dal, I saw your response. Dal says, I think I would rather have a smarter AI with few opponents as needed. And I like that. And I think again, going with the fewer is better. But I want to direct you guys to a game that Vertec and I bought. We found it at MagFest one year, and I'm very much behind it. Look at this game. This is a tabletop RPG game. It's very similar to D&D. However, the objective is to roll low, not high. And it's solo playable, meaning that the mobs and the bosses in this game are AI generated. I would like you guys to look at how they do it. They have a roll table. Basically, it's like a D6 or a D10, and you roll it, and whatever you get, that's what the enemy does, kind of like what we were just talking about. So this is a prime example of how that could be utilized. I think it'd be really cool. I'm going to put a pin in this topic because I think this would be a great topic for us on Monday when we come back from visiting family. Just to remind everybody, we are visiting family this week, so there will be no coffee quest tomorrow and no D&D on Sunday, but we will have our tavern chats. We're trying to iron out between Vertec and I streaming, so apologies that we didn't have a tavern talk this last Monday. We were still ironing out some issues of us sharing files, so I may have adjusted stuff from my PC, and it definitely did not help, as some of you may have seen in the beginning of this episode. If you were here live. If you're not here live, you have no idea what we're talking about, and that's fine because we fixed it. So, but just to kind of wrap it up, there's a few things that I want to talk about real quick, just touch on real quick. The live stream is going to be on the 27th, 11 a.m. Pacific. So don't miss the monthly update. I believe it was Richie Online who had said, yeah, it feels like it's been 2 months when it's only been 1. I'm so excited for seeing what the tank stuff and Alpha 2 preview stuff would be like, because at this point, everything is pre-Alpha 2. So we're getting excited. And finally, I wanted to mention that we were on the 1v1 with excuse me. Sorry. Let me have a drink real quick.
You're good.
All right. Yeah, we were on the 1v1 podcast with Vlhadus. It ended up being a 1v2 instead of 1v1, because both of us were invited on.
Thank you.
And Vlhadus, actually, if you end up commenting anything or saying hi to Vlhadus, give him extra thanks from us, because he did have to do a whole new setup and configure his show to fit 2 people on instead of 1.
Yes.
Many thanks. It was very fun.
And we were, just to put it out there, we were not only his first 2 guest people, but also we were episode 50. So
that works out well. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel honored.
Just subscribe to him. Heck yeah.
Yes. Go give him a like, go give him a follow, give him a subscribe, all of that good jazz. Check it out. We had a really good time chatting about Alpha 2 and other things. That will be for your lack of TGF stuff this weekend. Yes, milestones, such like that. So go check it out. And then, yes, Zeed has done more art. And she did a very nice, a couple of characters to be wanting Vlhadus. Very funny.
Just saying,
I like that.
The frog looks much cuter when Zeed did it.
Yeah. It looks a little terrifying in the art. I'm like, I don't think I want to touch that frog. I'm probably gonna get poison damage.
So wait, what is this art?
She makes like little clay creations, and then if Vertex scrolls up, she also does cross stitching. So she cross stitched that beetle.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa! So she made them, and then they made it in game.
No, she's making it based off of in-game stuff.
There you go. There is the original. art, and then there was her clay creation.
Yeah.
I love those big ol' eyes.
Cheaters, sorry, not
Yeah,
characters.
there's another cross stitch right there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I can't wait.
Yeah.
For
I'm so excited.
that.
All right. So, as we kind of wrap up here, one takeaway from today's episode. Turgo.
I actually learned more about Ashes than I didn't even know about some of the corruption because I just wasn't able to play Alpha 1. So
Right.
learning about the corruption and how PvP works was a huge takeaway for me. And just how in depth they've gone with every system, and also on these the forums, and just how in depth people are getting in to make sure that the team really knows what's, what people are thinking about. And I think it's great that there's this many people that are getting this nitty gritty with it, because the devs are able to take that information, put it up on a whiteboard, be like, how do we do this?
Right.
That's going to be, feasible for the community, where both the casuals and the min-maxers can do this and do it well and be able to be in this world. Because I want this MMO to be around for as long as WoW is, right? I don't want it to die off after one, or I don't think it would, but
Right.
I want it. There's MMOs out there that go out and die in like 5 to 6 years. I want this to be around forever, especially how big it is and the systems that they have in place. And so I think that's really a big takeaway, is just learning all about these different systems. And and also I don't know, just being on a podcast. I love being on a podcast. It's so cool. So
I'm glad you joined us.
yeah, for sure. Turbo snores.
Turbo snores.
Turbo
my
snore.
takeaway my takeaway is that there's still a lot that has to get worked out with the corruption system and how that's going to play into the world, which includes a lot of the boss mechanics and how that might intersect in terms of somebody trying to fight you while you're trying to fight a boss. And so I'm very much looking forward to seeing how Ashes handles all of that, and I believe it will be a breath of fresh air compared to World of Warcraft and being ganked.
Yeah. I'm also a huge takeaway is because when we're going in through all this, I'm very appreciative of all the devs and how much they're putting into this. I come from playing some Tower Fantasy recently, and you can see when devs cut corners, and I'm loving that they're pushing out Alpha 2 to start, because then it's like when it drops, it's going to be just so much, so great. It's just huge. So.
My big takeaway is that people are still concerned about the corruption system not being enough. And they're trying to balance the risk versus reward of corruption with giving people less corruption, but also still being concerned about corruption not being enough to stop lobies from being slain all day, every day, because that's going to be a max level player's biggest concern, is killing low level people when they're going to get a massive amount of corruption, and bounty hunters are literally staring at their maps waiting for a player to light up on their map.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as big as people think. I mean, I could be wrong. Who knows? We'll see. But I have a feeling something like that's going to be tuned out in alpha/beta, to where it's going to be so minimal. It's going to be an event that's going to summon the guild. It's going to be that rare. Like, everybody within a certain range is going to come in, because it doesn't happen often enough, and they're all going to be bloodthirsty to slay someone who is corrupted.
Yeah.
Like, all right, little Jimmy Gatherer, where were you? All right, we're coming. And they're going to want to see what this person drops.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. That's what I think is going to happen. We'll see, though. We'll see. I could be wrong.
This gatherer has like 500 herbs, and they get a party of 40 just to go kill it. Go kill him. Yeah.
We got the sword of truth. Oh.
Pulls it out of the stone like, oh.
Yeah. But yeah. What was your final thought there, TV?
I already gave it.
Oh. It's almost like I wasn't listening. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I feel so terrible.
I'm going to be...
Go ahead.
I'm reading Silvern's comment. I'm going to the corrupted come at me, bros. I'll blow them up with the sun. I think we're going to be fine in the world. They're going to have some sort of system. They probably already have it. They just haven't told us yet. And
Right.
a diminished return for ganking the same person too. They couldn't do that.
Who knows? I think we'll be all right. I think we'll be all right. But either way, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. Turgo, thank you for hanging out with us. Definitely
This was
down
fun.
the road. If something pops up and you're like, hey, I wanna stop by, just let us know. Let us know.
Yeah, and you told me to mention this before. Hold on. I do have a video on Ashes. I was just gonna. Do you mind if I put it in the chat?
Go for
By
it.
all means.
Okay.
Oh, well, you
actually,
might
I
want to
gotta
give
make
it to
sure-
me, actually. Yeah.
Here you go.
Okay.
Let me do
I'll give
this
it to
thing.
Chibi. Yeah, so
Got
I
it.
just
Thank
put it.
you.
I just gave it to you, and but yeah, that's the 5 biggest updates I found from last year. So, but if you guys want to watch it, give me your feedback because I'm always a growing creator. I've looked, oh man, I looked back 2 years ago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've gotten way better at making videos. It's crazy, you don't realize it until you go back a certain amount of time, and then. You got better. You're like, all right, cool. All right, just get to keep going. But the 5 biggest updates from that I pulled from last year. I mean, the seasons changes and how it affects spells. I think that's so cool. Throne and Liberty is actually going to be doing that later this year when they release. Spells are going to be affected by the weather too. So
Awesome. Definitely worth a watch.
yeah, cool. Other than that, yeah, had fun.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, that actually fits in perfect that you jumped in there, because the next thing I was going to ask is, do you have anything to plug? Drop it in
There you
now.
are.
So, you know, the timing was
There it
amazing.
is. On point.
But yeah, let's see here. So who can we read through to, by the way, now? Who's in line?
Chaos and Lace are live. We have Wicca Sloth playing Legend of Heroes and Tech Deck playing Lost Ark.
What are you folks feeling? I think
Jamie Chaos, they're doing Ashes of Creation? Is that
guy
who you said?
sucks. Definitely not him. Well, if Tech Deck's in here, I'm guessing he's closing up shop here shortly, if not already.
But thank you guys so much for spending your time with us. And we're sorry if you didn't get any of the pings initially. I had to put it out in Discord. But for some reason, I think Twitch just had a hiccup there.
Yeah, it's possible. It happens. Poor thing. So tired. Needs to take a rest.
Did you say Jamie Chaos is streaming?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're continuing some Ashes conversation. Let's go ahead and jump over there. Nobody piped up and said anything as a request, so let's go ahead and just continue the Ashes conversation over there with Jimmy Chaos and the Chaos and Lace Tangents of Creation
podcast,
whichever you wish to know it about. Just to those of you who have not popped over, just know that it's a little bit of a different vibe.
A little bit of a different vibe.
Yeah.
A little bit of a different vibe. Well, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for spending your time here. As you know, we do not give refunds. There is no give a minute, take a minute bucket. So thank you. We appreciate your donations. And Turgo's giving it cheers. I'm going to give it cheers.
Cheers. Clink, clink.
All right. We will catch you next time.
See you Monday.
See you guys.